Hello, I'm Simon. Welcome back to the workshop. Now, I've recently been thinking about how can I make lots of small presentation boxes very quickly. And I think I've come up with an approach. I don't think it's novel. I imagine lots of people have done this before, but it's new to me. So let's get tinkering. So these boxes are going to be suitable for small crafted objects like earrings, necklaces, pens, that sort of thing. And they'll take your ordinary crafted objects and it'll elevate them from ordinary to extra special. When you have a beautiful box to open with the object inside it, box says a lot about the object. And if you've taken the time to make a special box, then before the receiver even sees the gift, they know that what's inside is going to be special. Now I'm using a piece of board that's 1/2 inch wide by 1¼ inches deep, and this is going to be ideal for the boxes that I want to make. I'm going to want to round over the parts, and I thought it would probably be easier to round over this long board all in one go down the long sides at least before I chop it into pieces. How much of a round over you choose to have on your boards is really just personal preference, but I'm going to set the round over to about 6mm. I'm now going to cut the piece to length. I can now add the round over to the ends. I'm now going to cut a groove with a curved bottom into the pieces of wood. I've got a couple of stop blocks at each end so that I don't overshoot. Still got a little bit of work to do on these, but before I go any further, I'm going to sand them. Now if you're enjoying this video, why not take the time while I'm sanding to click that like button. And if you haven't already, then please subscribe. This board that I'm sanding on actually has little dogs on the bottom, and they connect to the dog holes in my MFT style workbench. If you want to see how I made it, then I'll leave a link to a video. With the sandpaper effectively clamped to the table, it gives you a huge mechanical advantage and makes sanding so much quicker. So whilst it seems quite a trivial thing, it's definitely worth making one of these if you haven't got one. I generally try to sand with the sandpaper either on a board or a sanding block, but doing the curves, you don't really have any choice but to just use a sandpaper in your hand. Now I've clamped the two halves of this box up ready to fit the hinges, and I've done that just so that it doesn't move. It's just one less thing to worry about. I'm taking the time now to file the corners. I'm doing this so that everything lines up perfectly. It'll just make the box look so much nicer if all of the edges and so on feel like they're continuous. I'm using my reusable sanding sticks, so if you want to make some of these, they're really easy to make. Have a look in my back catalogue and you'll find them, but I'll also leave a link in the description. Now I found fitting these tiny hinges quite stressful. You only have to look at them and they move. So I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided tape to the back so that I can place them exactly where I want them and get the screws in. It's really important to take the time to get these hinges nice and square and even, because it can really make or break the project. It's funny, you buy brass screws and they're magnetic. It must be that special Chinese brass. I flip the workpiece over, reclamp it, and then sand down the corners like I did on the other side. I'm now ready to fit the brass clasp, which is actually steel, but brass coloured, so I guess it's alright. Mind you, for the amount I paid, I would have thought they would have been plastic, and for this job, they're actually perfectly fine. These Chinese brass clasps are pressed steel, and because they're pressed steel, there isn't any flat surface on the bottom to stick the double-sided tape, so for this one I've used a little bit of insulation tape to hold it in place. This scribe I'm using I made 30 years ago and I still use it pretty much every day. I hope you can see that this approach to box making, whilst not suitable for a lot of boxes, is suitable for lots of small items such as jewellery, pens, necklaces, that sort of thing. And having seen the finished product, I can tell you it really elevates the object that you put inside, making it extra special. So it really is worth spending that little bit of extra effort creating a presentation box. Because these clasps are hollow underneath, I need to be very careful when I screw the screws in that I don't crush the clasp itself. I'm also being careful to make sure that the heads on the screws are all lined up. Well, that was relatively simple to make. All I now need to do is finish it. I then treat it with a few coats of Danish oil. So that's it finished. So let me know, what would you prefer to receive? A pen in a plastic bag or a pen in this gorgeous presentation box? Well, that wraps up this video. If you've got any comments or questions, then please leave them below. If you haven't already, then please subscribe. And if you've got this far, then you really should subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.